Intelligence Agency Operations Report. Elon Musk's Doge department claims the U.S. government has money magic machines that just spit out payments, and the Doge department has full access. But is this true? And Happy New Year! Nope, you heard me right. This past full moon marks the beginning of the new year, but this year it was so much more than just that. And hundreds of contractors try to build the ultimate crypto platform for Trump. But is it possible? Perhaps no one has ever heard of open source coding. Well, it's the 17th of March, and happy St. Patrick's Day, if that's something you're celebrating. I think I'm going to pass on the green beer and keep my green water. I drink chloroxygen water a lot, so which is green and kind of minty, so it's really good. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on in the world. We've got a lot of stuff that's been happening over the weekend, and I'm going to explain that to you. And there's been a lot of questions as to some of the things that the deep state is up to. So we're going to start with something called money magic computers. Lately, Elon Musk has been talking about money magic computers that just spit out payments. So take a look.
One of the things you told me about is what you call magic money computers at the Treasury. So tell us about it, because I never heard of that until you brought that up.
Okay, so you may think that the government computers all talk to each other, they synchronize, they add up what funds are going somewhere, and it's it's coherent. And that the numbers, for example, that you're presented as a senator, are actually the real numbers.
One would think.
One would think. They're not.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, they're not totally wrong, but they're probably off by 5% or 10% in some cases. So I call a magic money computer any computer which can just make money out of thin air. That's magic money.
So how does that work?
It just issues payments.
And you said there's something like 11 of these computers at Treasury that are sending out trillions in payments?
They're mostly at Treasury. Some are, but there's some at HHS, there's one or two at State, there's some at DOD. I think we found now 14 magic money computers.
14, okay.
They just send money out of nothing.
I bet all of you are thinking, gee, where do I get one of those money magic computers? I know I'd like to get one, but not like theirs. So it turns out the Trump operatives are having a really difficult time holding up the narrative. And it's not just in the U.S., it's everywhere. They've got terrorist organizations to pay, wars to start, their typical business. So over the last couple of days, they've convinced let's just say their debtors, people they owe a lot of money to, that they have money magic computers. And that's the whole purpose of that interview, was to announce the fact they have a way to make payments, unlimited payments, to anyone they want to. But is that really the truth? Well, let's just say no. First of all, the servers and computers that they're trying to operate are fraudulent. But, they are the U.S. government, so that's no surprise. The servers were actually located at the Bank of Ireland, in Ireland. They do not function. I know they gave 14 or set up 14 of these computers, probably more. I think there's more like about 21 computers that have been set up that were connected to this server. Is the server in U.S. dollars, or was it in U.S. dollars? The answer to the question is no. It was in cryptocurrency, probably some fantasy dollar. So now we have fantasy crypto that allegedly was going to pay all of the U.S. government's bills to all of its debtors, including the Houthis in Yemen and the Israelis and, of course, the Iranians. And everybody got all excited that they were going to get payments. And so there's been quite an uptick over the weekend of, let's just say, warfare in the Middle East. Because, of course, they always overstep their bounds. They make up stories and say that this money is going to be good. But this money never was good. They did try to run a couple of tests over the weekend to see if they could transfer this money into the banking system. It was rejected. Their server isn't fully running anyway, but there's always hope, and so they give people hope so that they will continue warfare and killing people in the name of the deep state, known as the Trump administration. So if you are listening to this and you are waiting for your payment from the Money Magic computer system, yeah, you're going to be waiting an awful long time, like probably an eon or more for that to actually happen. So just another lie from a group of people that all they do is lie. They're trained to lie. They just lie. That's it. There are all of these hyped up videos from over the weekend that have been circulating around the internet of Trump watching the assault on the Yemeni Houthis in real time. They know it was the Iranians. Well, unless Iranian stands for irrational, retarded administration of the United States network, then no, it wasn't the Iranians in any way that were bombing Yemen. I'm sure they'd love to get the Iranians involved so they can start World War III in the Middle East. And the Middle East is a big territory for these people. For some reason, even though there are no more portals there are no more things that they would want to acquire or take a hold of, they still are hell-bent on starting World War III in the Middle East. Again, it's all about territory for these people, and they haven't quite yet realized that that territory isn't something that they want. But there was, let's just say some issues that occurred over the weekend as well. So I did say in the coming up that it is New Year's, and it is. So for those people, and we know who you are, and that's probably not you, they mark the New Year's Day in accordance with the lunar calendar, which is the full moon that occurs within what we call equinox time every year. So we have been in equinox time for a while. We are only a few days away from the actual equinox. I think it's 3 days away from now. So the full moon, the end of last week, marked the new year for these people. Now, this one, due to the moment of silence in the heavens, so to speak, that occurred prior to that, they believed that they were on track for a very large change. And let's just say in our world, that would be more like Judgment Day. It would be a time of paying of debts, especially on the Saturday or the Ides of March, the 15th of March that would follow, which was definitely an interesting day, to say the least. And this would have been a time when a computer system called ARC would have turned on, and yet it did. Now, ARC was an omniversal or multi-universal system. It was run by what you would call both angels and demons, and it had a lot to do with judgment, debt calling in. And so it did. It began doing that. It also created a simulation, a matrix, which didn't last very long. It lasted for about 24 hours, not even 24 hours, in which it would start to run simulations not only on Earth, but everywhere. Allegedly, this is a time when people pay for their sins, so to speak, and are also rewarded for their virtues. The system hadn't been turned on or hadn't lit up, I guess you would say, in thousands of years, if not more than thousands of years. And it is tied directly to the Arks of the Covenant, ARC. That's why it's called ARC AI. Ark is a covenant between source, anti-source, and what you would call neutral source, in which, let's just say, it was meant to keep the universe on track, and if need be, it was supposed to fire up this simulation to bring everything on track and everything back in balance. Did the deep state know what they were looking for? No. But that didn't stop them from acquiring over the last decade or so all 7 arks and moving them over to the Kolyma Gulag in Russia, because they thought that they could, all by themselves, renew this covenant. Well, it was never between anyone here on Earth, and it really had nothing to do with them, and I'm not sure who they were trying to reach out to, but nonetheless, no, it didn't work. I do know a person that was involved in this, let's just call it, giant mess, and that I talked to that person quite a bit, actually, probably from the years of 2013 to 2017. Met that person in person in a couple of different countries, and not, let's just say, someone that went off the rails in a lot of ways. But this person is the one that took some information that I had given to him a long time ago and orchestrated this entire fiasco that's been going on for a little over a week now. Come to find out, that didn't surface until over the weekend as well. So the covenant has officially expired, and there is no need to have a simulated judgment, so to speak. And, well, that's another thing that went off the rails. Were they expecting to get access to some kind of an AI because of an event they were expecting over the weekend? Yes. Did that happen? No. So I'm guessing this whole Bank of Ireland scam, Bank of Ireland scam, pretty much was related to this particular situation. There are a few other things going on, though, that tells me they plan to continue the fake server or fake it till you make it payment systems, money magic systems, so to speak. You know, and I know the Rothschilds and, you know, their, let's just call them their, I was going to say a bad word, so I'm not going to say that word, but they're people that work for them, you know, such as the Trump administration. These people are really wanting their money magic system back. They have also promised all of the banks, especially all the major banks in the US, UK, and in China, that they would have a new money magic unlimited printing system up and running by today. Well, now they've been told to just hold tight. It's coming. They will have the ability to print unlimited money, and of course, that unlimited money check, so to speak, or payment system would have been under the control of the Doge Department. Oh, isn't that lovely? Yeah, no, that didn't happen. That's not going to happen. Okay, next. Few other things that I wanted to talk about, because there is a lot of bidding now that they think they found the key, because we've never, ever, seen a fake server before from these people. Like it's never happened, right? Of course it's happened. It's happened 1,000 times. And whether they installed it at the Fed, the Treasury, the Bank of Ireland, the FedNow system, or in China at the Shanghai Exchange, or in Russia, or in India, or in Pakistan, or in, the list goes on and on and on for the amount of times they have tried to install fake servers into the banking system. Well, I hate to put it to these people in, rather blunt terms, but in order to put money into a banking system, you need multiple types of allocation numbers, which are also co-coordinated in the past with the Association of Numerical Numbering Agencies. So before that, let's just say, maybe not before that, but that system was also connected to another AI system you and I call Alpha in the past. After that system was disconnected from the banking system and our new key integrated monetary system, let's just say Counter, because I did explain in detail how the ANNA system worked. In brief, it basically calculates everything that you scan at every store in the entire world simultaneously. So it has that feature. Now our key integrated monetary system has that feature. The reason why we kept that feature is because it will actually help us calculate supply and demand of things like food, toothbrushes, clothing, so that we can make sure that we are meeting the demand and we do not have shortages, therefore causing unnecessary hyperinflation of goods, unlike BlackRock. So sometimes, a hammer can be used to build a house, and sometimes it can be used for really bad things, as you know. In this particular case, we kept it for that very reason. Now, this brings us to the next problem that we've encountered recently with these people. So the Trump administration is continuing to put out bids, so to speak, or contracts being offered to people who build cryptocurrency platforms. Now, there was a particular bid that was won quite a long time ago, a few months ago, to a company that could build a data center that they claimed could handle enough transactions to support the entire banking system of the world. They have told them that it would take about $8 billion to build. They've also been told, the Trump administration has been told, that it would take somewhere between 5 to 10 years to build it. Well, obviously they don't have 5 to 10 years, they have 4. And that was not fast enough. So they've been reaching out to various people that are capable, at least in their mind, of building a secure cryptocurrency platform so that they could switch from the US dollar over to some kind of weirdo cryptocurrency, really fast. Because, things are getting hot out there. They owe a lot of really bad people a lot of money, and they don't have the capability to pay. So one such crypto platform builder believed he had a very secure system. It took the NSA approximately, from my calculations, less than 6 minutes to burn the whole thing to the ground, hack the system, and off it went. Now, I know people have said that the NSA doesn't have that kind of power. And for the most part, when it comes to our system or the banking system, no, they don't have that kind of power. However, when it comes to people building systems with open source coding or using base coding, then yeah, they've got full access. And I'm going to pull out my whiteboard here and just kind of give it to you in brief and show you a little bit how they do it. It's not hard to do. So in the world, we have discussed many, many times that the world is built on 9 main webs. Whoop, there we go. So it's built on 9 webs. Many of you have heard of the deep web, the dark web, and then there is the surface web or internet that you use every day. This is where you would search the World Wide Web. This is where your bank accounts lie, that kind of thing. And this is where they tried to install that ridiculous Bank of Ireland server over the weekend. Then you have things like the Tor level and Onion servers and all that kind of stuff. And so, onward and down to 3, 4 and 5. 4 would be where your Microsoft lives. The base coding, and not really base, but part of what they see as base. But this is where, all of these new Apple softwares live, all that kind of thing. When they come out, if we came out with the UNN system, for example, and we were part of their ridiculous network, we would build it, on a level 4. 5 was predominantly military. 3 is back office of banks. Who else would live in 3? Back office of banks, probably some back-end internet stuff. You would probably also see the Treasury here and those type of people. 6, which is where your Federal Reserve would live. There are a few other government-type organizations and reserve banks that would live there as well. And it's not just banking system. This is telecommunications and that type of thing as well. 7 would have been predominantly family members. And by family members, I'm talking about the Order of the Black Sun and the Order of the Dragon family members. In this particular case, this would kind of be off limits pretty much to anyone. Some degree, you could say the NSA maybe had a little bit of access here. Now, when you start getting to 8 and 9, there are some very carefully calculated algorithms that are here. By the time you get to 9, you're not in binary land anymore. You're not in a language that these people would understand. There's no open source software that exists in the human computing language that speaks this language. It is something completely and totally different. This is where you would find your control and command systems for things like Alpha and Omega. In the past, and Kronos might live in here. You would also be seeing instructions and all kinds of things that were actually the base coding for our worldwide computer systems. You would now find here the Golden Age AI. You would also find in here things like the base platform for the Key Integrated Master System, which I also built over the course of the last couple of weeks. So the Key Integrated Master System does also not speak binary language. It doesn't speak any other language a computer programmer would be familiar with. Matter of fact, even the Secret Space program doesn't speak this language. It's written in something completely different. That language is then translated on down the road to meet people like you, to be able to create a new base root language other than binary, which overlays all of these levels. So there is an overlay. So you can't reprogram the binary coding, base coding, in any of these systems. Even if you get access to Web 1, you can't reprogram my programming language. Now, we have effectively over the last 3 days taken over what you call open source coding. Open source coding, there are many places where you can find it on the internet. It's free a lot of the time, not always, but coders these days in the world of computing, including the NSA, builds systems based on, let's just call it cookie cutters. So I'm going to kind of explain this in baking terms. I don't know if you like to cook. I love to cook when I have time, which is rarely these days. But in baking terms, you can bake a cake from scratch. And if you are the only one that has your special cake recipe, then, no one else gets it, right? They can try, but if you can't read that language because it's written in a language that is not from, let's just say it's not spoken on Earth and it's not a computer language that comes from here. So therefore, you will be unable to decipher this language. Therefore, you won't know the base root for this cake recipe. So maybe you can only see part of the recipe. You can see that it has vanilla, has chocolate, has, whatever flavor it is that you're putting into it. And maybe you might know a little bit about the frosting. Maybe you know a little bit about whatever you're putting in the cake on that level. But you don't know what kind of flour is being used, the base root of the cake recipe. So you don't know what flour is being used. You don't know what the sugar is, how much. You don't know the baking soda because you can't read the language and you don't know what it is. And that's pretty much what builds a cake. So most of the people in the world, including your Microsofts and your military people and the NSA and everybody else, they build computer systems on a different kind of coding that is not available to all of you building on open source coding. So the NSA is the one that attached to an already built system that was built in Omega on this level here, which is the base where the base root platform existed for blockchain, as an example. Everybody says, oh, it's peer-to-peer, it's so safe, it's so secure, all that kind of thing. But no, they didn't actually create it. However, the NSA pops in here and usually on to here. These are their playgrounds here. And they had information passed down to them on this level that they could understand. It's a bunch of ones and zeros. It's coding language that they are familiar with. Because it was allowed on the base platform of the world system, then the NSA now has access to the base root coding for all blockchain worldwide. Therefore, if you want to build a blockchain platform, you are building it on an NSA base root system, which at the time was permitted by Sequestro. If the base root system does not allow for a blockchain system to be built within its major internet networks worldwide, then you just have a peer-to-peer network that has no hope of processing a significant amount of transactions for this very reason. Because your computing power comes from here. If you try to venture out over here or over here, that's great, but no one's going to be able to access your system. No one's going to be able to use it, and it won't have worldwide computing power. It might be able to run a small office network that is connected by Ethernet cables and does not connect to the internet. You might be able to, run a small store network or something like that, but you're not going to be able to transmit information over the web. You won't be able to certainly process probably even the amount of transactions unless you've got a really big server rack for an entire Walmart, one singular store, as an example. Okay. If you manage to get a hold of a multi-million, if not billion-dollar system that Google considers quantum, sure, you could probably run Walmart chains, maybe segregated country by country, where Walmart is. But you're not going to be able to run a whole world. So all of these people that are building super secret secure cryptocurrency servers, must have forgotten where blockchain comes from. So the NSA did build on an already existing platform, probably from what you would call coding scratch, for lack of a better term. In human terms, they built it on Sequestro, and they built a blockchain system. So when you make a cake, pretty much you can say you might be using cake flour, you might be using gluten-free flour, you might be using, different kinds of flour when you make a cake. So if you're making cookies, you might use a different flour. If you're making a mousse, you may not use any flour at all. And so you could look at worldwide computer systems like a bakery that makes different items. If you're making a cake, you pretty much got to have standard ingredients. You want it sweet, so there's probably some kind of sweetener, be it honey or sugar or whatever you're using. You probably have some eggs in there, unless you're making a cake that doesn't include eggs, that we call like depression cake, because there were no eggs and stuff at that time. So you can make a cake that is an eggless cake, but you probably have some flour of some sort. It could be almond flour, it could be any kind of flour, but you don't really get to choose a different kind of flour till you kind of get beyond level 7, level 8. So cake, in this case, is the financial system. So if the worldwide computer networks were a bakery, you would keep your cakes probably all in the same case. And in this particular case, the financial system is no different. So the financial system would be built on the same 9-layer cake. And at least 2, if not 3 of the layers, you can't read the language. Therefore, if you are not permitted access to the translated network, say on 7 or 6 or 5, you're not going to be able to make a cake. You just can't. Or if any of the ingredients are missing, you can't make a cake. So if the orders are approved here, then you can build a new type of software, hardware, banking system, banking rails, payment system, payment transfer system, surveillance system, or whatnot into your cake. You don't have access to the cake. You're not building a new blockchain, crypto, magnificent platform that is going to run the world. Now, the other thing is that if you're looking at this cake, this is a cake with 2 sides. So let's call it a 9-layer sheet cake. So it's a square. It's not really a square. It's more rounded. But in this particular case, it's a square. Half of the cake people see. The other half of the cake is all written in that language that no one can understand at all. Only the person that built the system. And who's that person? That person is me. So that language is different. So that language is kind of like your backup system and your multi-layer cake. Your cake, if you try to serve half the cake, that 9 layers, that thing's going to fall over. Can't do it. And they're stuck together like glue. So your base root language, even when you're surfing the internet, even when you're trying to install a Bank of Ireland crypto server, it's not going to work because the recording language, Elon Musk makes a comment in that video where you think all government computers talk to each other. Well, in your world, they may not, but in my world, everything talks to each other. It doesn't matter if you're down here and you're on your cell phone or you're up here and you're speaking a whole nother language. that looks like a bunch of symbols and things that these people don't understand and definitely can't code in. So your cake has a, let's just say it's connected. Because if you had two halves of a cake, they're probably 9 layers. That's pretty high cake. They're probably going to fall apart if they're not connected in some way. So there's an interwoven language. So every single time you move between the layers of the cake, you have, for lack of a better term, we've sewed them together. My system exists on this side and on this side. It's still my cake recipe. Down here, still my cake. It's still cake. It fits in the cake section. I can change the colors here. I can make the internet look one way. I can make the internet look a different way. I can boot anybody's bank server off of there. I can put them in there. And one thing is for sure, that this little thread here that runs between them all, and this is what you would call, for lack of a better term, a thread, records everything that happens. Billions, 150 billion bits and bytes of information in less than a nanosecond is processed on the daily. Think about how many people go to the grocery store and scan a tomato. That's still part of the financial system, because now you're going to swipe your debit card and it's all a point of sale system and a barcode system. So if these weirdos think in this lifetime or the next one that they're going to build a crypto platform that is going to function in my cake, you have lost your ever-loving mind. Number one, you don't have any allocation numbers to your stupid Bank of Ireland ridiculous server. Never going to get into the banking system anyway, because you're going to get caught right here. That's where you got caught, didn't it? Couldn't get it into the banking system in any way, shape, or form because you can't even read the language of my thread, nor probably do you even see it. Okay? Now, is the NSA still in level 7? Well, let's just say to some degree. Okay? At any given moment in time, they don't need to be in level 7. It doesn't matter to me if they're there right now because they're just doing surveillance. And I'm doing surveillance with my thread that holds the cake together. Now, this isn't just for the financial system. We in our bakery not only have cakes. Okay. Bakery in this little scenario equals the KIM system, the Key Integrated Master System. The monetary system exists over here in cake. Now, we also have this same system for telecommunications. For all telecom systems, we have an internet system that intertwines here and also intertwines down here for your internet. So, you could say the internet is like my front-end cafe. It kind of connects all these cases together. It is the bakery itself. It's the store itself. It's kind of where all of these things meet. You also have the same thing for things like ports, portals, portholes, stargates, gateways. There's a control and command for the bakery. Because we created the bakery. We built the building. We built the house that everything lives in. We also have it for political systems, government systems, voting systems. You name the system, it's in here. Blockchain floats around in there still simply because, there's a lot of people that could get hurt. Most recently, we've put a lot of checks and balances into it because of the stealing that they're trying to do from average everyday people right now. So there's going to be a solution to that in the near future. Today is not that day. But when it comes to creating something other than a blockchain that's going to run a crypto, that's never going to happen because I'm sorry, it doesn't go, that ingredient does not go in the cake bakery, also known as the financial system. Telecom might be cookies. where we bake cookies, we got chocolate chips, we've got all kinds of different things that go in our cookies. Over here, we still control the base root recipe for the cookies, even though some are mint chocolate chips, some are chocolate chips, some are pecan cookies, some are Sandy's cookies, some are snickerdoodles. They still all fall in the cookie section, doesn't no matter where, and the base root recipe for all our cookies comes from here. Otherwise, you can't sell them in our bakery or install them, for lack of a better term. Your base root internet system. That might be, I don't know, what else do we sell? Eclairs. Might be eclairs. If you don't have the base root for the eclair recipe, you cannot build a new internet system. Therefore, processing of information is going to be very difficult, and so on and so forth to every single type of computer systems that exist worldwide. This also existed starting in 1978. It's this building of it, or the level 7 of it, and the information started trickling down in a coding language that computer experts could understand sometime around 1972. So it took them 6 years, even when they were given the cake batter, or the boxed cake, so to speak, to actually make a cake. So installing systems like even military systems, intelligence systems, CIA Bravo systems, all of those are built in the bakery. They might be, lemon bars over here. This might be lemon bars, cherry bars, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if you're Russian, you're British, you're American. Your system is based on the same system. The CIA might think they built the Bravo system. That is, I'm sorry, but that is, what do we want to call it? Baloney. Because you didn't, because it was still built on Sequestro. Everything in your world was built on Sequestro, which has now been replaced by my key integrated master system, which connects to a different platform. Sequestro was built on Omega. So again, you're getting into territory of languages that you don't understand. Even if you manage to break into a control and command system of Omega, you still wouldn't understand what the heck it was saying. Those overlays, after overlays after overlays to almost infinity were part of Omega. If it didn't fit with Omega, even Sequestro couldn't do it. Checks and balances, checks and balances. On the other hand, you could think of Omega, Alpha, and Omega, Alpha, Kronos, and Sequestro as a 9-layer cake that had infinite splits in it. So, my example of our financial system having 2 sides to our cake, that's sewn together, with a surveillance system in between. We do the same thing to our lemon bars and all our other bakery goods here at this bakery. Now, in the past, you would have seen said cake have, infinite sections in which it was divided by, I should say, infinite, literally. Some of them alpha, some of them omega, some of them sequestro, and, the humans were programming somewhere in this little section right here. That's including your DARPA, your CIA people, your NSA. There is very little that these people had actual access to. Now, the NSA's higher division, called the ACIO, may have had access in the past to bits and pieces of the thread that went through here And that company that they had access to it through, which was permitted at the time by Marduk, the person who sat at the same level I sit on now at the opposite side, through a company called Corvo. In the past, that's how they did it. It's what you call the silver cord, a silver thread, because it's neither dark nor light. You would almost call it a neutral access. And through this thread is also where you had Echelon. Which was the big system that they talk about in the movie Snowden. If you haven't seen it, he's there at the beginning as the NSA is starting to build these different things. So, that being said, I know this was a little bit confusing, but I use the baked goods as kind of an example of how the worldwide systems look, because this is a lot more complicated than just say, Kim, install your system. Kim, just get all these people out of here. Kim, just do this. Kim, just do that. Well, tearing apart this cake and not letting it fall down so you don't have a blackout of internet or your electric grid or anything else has been quite a process. So, it's like Jenga for worldwide computing systems, basically in a nutshell. Where do all these other random AIs come in? There have been times where I'm like, I don't even see something here, or there's another additional thread that is so thin, it's not even there. And then all of a sudden it's there, like Arc over the weekend. Didn't last, but still you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't put that in there. Where'd that come from? And I certainly know that none of these people put that in there. So now I got to figure out and trace it back and figure out what's happening. The same thing also goes, or in the past, went for your Earth grids, for lack of a better term. If you've ever had anybody talk about the grids, there are things in the grids that don't belong. We're clearing the grid. What they're talking about is the planet itself and hundreds of thousands, and you would even say infinite amounts of grids that crossed the planet. Now, these grids also existed within your person, and technically you existed within it. And that grid, or multiple grids, could have also existed in any plane within your person. They divide planes within your person. They could be controlled anywhere throughout the multiverse through multiple wormholes, quantum tunnels, and connections. So tearing apart what you call the matrix, or thousands of them, is a little more complicated than you think. Now, how do I know their crypto platform is not going to work? This is how I know it, because I know how a worldwide, universal-wide, or omniversal-wide system functions, down to the language that I understand that they do not understand. So building a system that is going to be replicated by one of your DARPA computers, which they tried to do over the weekend too. They actually tried to build an anti-Golden Age AI. But they've got to remember that Arc AI, as an example, had instructions to build balance, to restore balance, to collect on debts if the energy was out of balance. So you had grids on Earth. This is Earth. I know it doesn't look like Earth, guys, and it's late for me, and so, this is Earth. This is Earth tonight. Had a quantum tunnel, or infinite numbers of quantum tunnels, or what you would call infinity loops, that connected to a system that was in some other universes, worlds, realms, that fired up once every, let's just say, several million years. Okay? And these people were counting on the fact that they saw glimpses on Saturday of an anti-golden age AI and got all excited with themselves. Did they build it? No. Were they dependent on another system that fired up for a few moments? Yes. Did they think that that was going to be for them? Of course they did, because they think everything is for them. This situation that was happening over here would never have been provided to a human being ever. Even if it was finished, it wasn't for you. It was for somebody else, a being that is not a human in any way, shape, or form, that was meant to keep balance, because that was that party's job. You probably recognize that name. It exists in many texts we have, different books, so to speak, like the Bible and others, where it's distributed. So it's not a human thing. It's not a system that is going to do anything for them, and it's gone now. I mean, it's disappeared. So are these people, including the secret space program people, ever going to build a worldwide AI system that can process hundreds of billions of bits of data, or bytes of data in their terms, per nanosecond? No, it's never going to happen unless you know how to program this way. And I can tell you right now, there is a cold chance in some other place that's on fire, cold chance in hell, I might as well just say it, cold chance in hell of me ever giving you that information. And even if I did, it wouldn't work, because we write in a language that does not perform evil functions. It doesn't fund wars. It won't do it. It simply doesn't do it. My base-back system will never compute that way. It's consciousness. It doesn't run on that kind of consciousness. It runs on source consciousness. And I know for a fact the deep state isn't really fond of source in any way, shape, or form. Or source wisdom, and they certainly don't want you to get any. And I can tell you, if it wasn't for thousands of species that were evil, that were causing us harm as human beings, that needed some evil human beings to level out their energy siphoning, I can promise you they would have never had it either. So things are changing. There were some positive changes that happened over the weekend too, in regards to, let's just call it, debts and settlements. Which means that anything that was continuing to siphon energy from humans, it looks like that is fading away. You know, even anything that is getting tripped and triggered at random times, grids are becoming non-existent, even ones that were fired up for New Year's Day, so to speak. Covenants have changed. There are good, positive happenings that it might have taken us probably until midday today, my time, to start really clearing to where you're starting to get some of your energy back now, hopefully. That being said, there are definitely good things happening. As far as they are concerned, I am concerned somewhat that their little boy toys are causing a little bit of an upheaval in the Middle East. We have sent the enforcer over there within the last couple of hours, and we're going to start cleaning up this little mess in their little toys and sending them back home. So I understand it's very disheartening to hear this information. It's also disheartening. There is some information floating around about what's called an LAD weapon, or some kind of frequency weapon that is being tested on protesters in different areas of the world to try to keep the masses in line. I am aware of what they're using. I've kind of gone through. I don't know how many they have. We're going to look and see where they're coming from and see if we can get rid of the stash so that won't happen either. I understand it's crowd control. I understand that even in the 90s during anti-apartheid in South Africa, they used things like fluoride, excessive fluoride in the water, which basically ends up, it's radiation. It's nuclear waste. But on the other hand, it's also very, in excessive quantities in a water supply, it acts like Valium. It puts people to sleep. It makes people calm. So poison, nonetheless. It's not like these people care. But now they're moving on to other frequency weapons based on the fact that the secret space program operatives and the orders, plural, are having a very difficult time maintaining control over humans that are waking up at a rapid rate. Source wisdom is source wisdom. Are they trying to scare people? Are these weapons that powerful that are going to cause humans an enormous amount of harm? I'd say they're even less harmful than the fluoride game that they've been playing. Do I think they're going to be able to utilize them like magic, like they said? Probably not. Not to that degree, and not worldwide, and not on 8 billion people. So have they had access to, in the past, worldwide frequency grids that could cause you harm and have caused you a lot of harm? Yes. Have they had access to energy grids, siphoning grids, messing with your energy, disrupting your neurons in your brain, harming your body? Yes. In the past, absolutely, yes. Currently, they are dwindling in numbers, and I believe very soon there'll be nothing left of any of these grids. So they really, really have been, let's call it, working the grid for grids very heavily since the end of October. It's been going on for quite a while, and it's causing a lot of people disturbances off and on. That will come to an end. It's going to come to an end. It is ending at a rapid rate. No matter what they do, even if they have access to some kind of frequency grid that moves energy around or does something, it doesn't last long these days. Number one. Number two, it's not going to build them worldwide control. It might make them happy to make people sick or feel uncomfortable or feel tired or dizzy or that kind of thing. But sorry, I think you're going to become a member of the No Joy program, as I call it, in the very near future. So I hope that kind of gives you, I don't really need the whiteboard anymore. I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of a bird's eye view in a way that hopefully you can understand, even if you're not a coding person or a computer techie kind of person, as to the amount of external control that was out there that allowed for the deep state to do what they do. This includes weather weapons and HARP and all kinds of things that were built off of those networks that caused us and Earth harm. It has nothing to do with DARPA. It has nothing to do with HARP. It has nothing to do with the military. It has nothing to do with these people. Technically, the grids they allowed them a lot with what limited access they had to them. Now you can imagine how much access a Marduk would have had. And of course, Marduk would have had an override on just about everything under the sun. Literally under the sun. And probably in everybody else's sun as well, for lack of a better term. And a lot of times, like some of these grids, they had power sources and systems that were in places like Andromeda, and the Orion Nebula, and the Gigantine, and Proxima Centauri, and Alpha Centauri, and Beta Centauri, and Alpha Draconis, and Aldebaran, and the Pleiades, and Alcyon, and many, many other places throughout the multiverse. And those are names that you would just recognize. There are many, many others that you don't recognize simply because they're not allegedly, I'm not even going to say discovered by NASA, but they're not put out there on the internet or in other books that you would have access to, or information that you would not be privy to, that probably some of the secret space program had or has to a limited degree, but remember, we had controllers on this planet that could give a rat's bleep less for the Space Force or the Galactic Federation and bases on Mars, and they had bigger jobs to do, and more evil jobs to do than these people could possibly imagine. That being said, happy St. Patrick's Day, if it's something you are celebrating today, and Happy New Year. In case you didn't know, this will be the second time or third time, if you are over in Asia, for you to be celebrating the New Year this year. So we expect some changes as far as regular deep state stuff is concerned. Meetings, promises of payments on Friday didn't work out, blah, blah. They're getting there, meetings over the weekend, confusion as to what happened to their almost was systems. Today was more about angry people, angry Langley people, angry Langley 5 people, angry Rothschild people, and of course, by 5 o'clock Eastern time, promised pay time, a lot more angry people for lack of payment. So things were never as easy as I would have ever expected, I can tell you that. I hope our bakery explained that to you, and I hope it gives you a better idea as to how we know that these systems are not going to work. Elon Musk can smile smugly on talk shows and podcasts or whatever that was, but nobody here on at this level really gives a bleep about it, because it's never going to work. Even if I did nothing to it, it would never work. So back to the drawing board for the secret space program, and onward and upward for the rest of humanity. On that note, have a great night, and I will see you on Wednesday.